Good morning. So, pleasant night's sleep, no mice. Did make me wonder actually, don't mice hibernate? So, pleased with that. Passing showers at the minute. The night's sky isn't quite as bright as it was, so the moon kind of hidden behind clouds. But not much in the way of activity. So, it's about 6:15, 6:20, and I'm just going to push on. Try and make for Campbelltown as soon as I can and get some supplies. Saying that, that's the rain coming on quite persistently now, so back at it. Although staying in here was quite good because it gave my stuff a chance to dry out, which it was very much needing. So, well, now it's just going to get soaked again, but yeah, hopefully the rain isn't as persistent today as it was yesterday. I'm about 5k into the walk now, and the sun's really just starting to make an appearance in the skyline. It is absolutely beautiful and really quite pleasing to see. So still a wee while to go until Campbelltown, but I just bumped into a lovely local who came up to see what the source of my light was, and she told me that there's an agricultural supplies place where I might get some gas. So that is, you know, if that is the case, that's fantastic, and there may be somewhere else in Campbelltown that I can get it. So that's quite confidence inspiring. So I'm just using the last of my gas, probably cooking up some breakfast. Really pleased to be just getting away from the Loch Lossa, and the weather's cheered up a bit as well. Got a bit of a soaking in the rain coming over, but I just had to kind of power through it and get all that behind me, and the weather is improving, so yeah, fingers crossed for that continuing. Campbelltown's in the rear view now, and it was a success. I popped into a few shops and eventually got to the hardware store, and the guy thought he didn't have a canister for me, and then just as I was leaving the door he came running afterwards and he was like, yes, here it is. So I've got a massive canister. It's like twice the size of the one I had before, so it's a fair weight, and I got some fire lighters and some other bits and bobs. I needed some more cleansing wipes instead of the sanitizer ones. I've got the Ineos sanitizers, which are brutal on the skin. They're meant for cleaning hands, not for scrubbing your body, so it would appear. So I got phone signal in the town and checked some messages from loved ones and friends and stuff, and it was just, yeah, it was nice to feel, after having a pretty rough time at Loch Lossa, it was nice to feel kind of somewhat back in kind of a civilization. Not to say that Campbelltown's not a civilization, but just to be in some kind of place where people are. And yeah, so great. I also stopped in a lovely place called Food for Thought, and had a toasty and a cup of tea. So that's kind of the end of the wilderness recreation trip in a way, but at the end of the day, like, I think it's a miracle I've made it this far, and I'm really chuffed that I've made it this far. Just passing the 69 mile post there, you know, this alone is a massive achievement for me. Even if I hadn't made it, if I'd stopped at Campbelltown, it still would have been a really big achievement, way bigger than any other walk I've done before. And some of the, you know, really some of the most testing times I've had. I've still got 2 days to go, mind, so, you know, it could still get worse from here. But nothing as bad as one day I had at Loch Affric, where I was walking between the loch to the east of Loch Affric and the split between there, which I think is about a 20-kilometre split or something like that, or section, and it was baking hot, absolutely baking hot. I was totally unfit. I had a hugely heavy pack on, and I had to struggle my way through in the heat to this this little hut. But halfway I basically collapsed under a tree and fell asleep. Just had like a kind of involuntary siesta because of the effect the heat was having on me. My feet were red raw. It was agony. And I saw a golden eagle nearby, and I thought that would be lovely to see if it weren't for the fact that it's quite clearly seeing I'm on the on my last legs. But you know, I made it to that hut with like just the last steps I had in me. I couldn't have made it any further, and I just lay on the ground for ages and ate some bars, drank some water and what have you. And then I had to get a fire going in my biomass stove in high winds, with nothing but the materials around me, birch bark and twigs and what have you, and so before I could have a hot dinner. And yeah, that was the hardest day of my life so far. And this hasn't been quite as hard as that, but you know what, it's been knocking on the door. Times at Loch Lossat and day 3 as well, they were really knocking on the door for hardest times, but not quite. So there we go, a bit of resilience built perhaps. So with the bulk of the challenges out the way now, I think the last big challenge really is just being able to find a place to sling the tarp along this coastline. It's very exposed. If I can find suitable bits of woodland for that, we're laughing. And I have already spotted places on the OS map. I did that in the pre-planning for the trip, so I'm really hoping that they're going to be sufficient. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have to worry about now. I bloody hope so. I hope it's not going to be something like my boots have been pretty dry. Well, they've been completely dry the whole time. Like if they were to start leaking, that would really ruin my day. It's just quite surreal. The whole thing's quite surreal. You know, I really wanted to spend a long time in nature where all I had to think about was getting from A to B and my systems and keeping all my gear looked after and having to think on the feet and that kind of thing. And also like the challenges that come with it. And challenges that have come with it have been, felt quite significant. Certainly enough to ruin your day, and ruin my day anyway. So yeah, it feels quite surreal to be here, to be doing it after having planned it for such a long time. And it is delivering. You know, it's just starting to set in now actually that I'm coming to the end of the trip. I've been so focused on like next stage, next stage, next stage. I haven't really thought about the trip ending. I mean, for a while I didn't think I'd be able to end the trip. So yeah, really grateful for the sun, grateful for the lack of rain, grateful for the light breeze. I've pretty much dried out, you know. Just spectacular. You know, I was just thinking there, can you imagine how much more straightforward this trip would have been if I'd just brought a tent? You know, like the ability just to set up shop anywhere would be really helpful. It's the fact that I've got to think about somewhere that's decent for the tarp. And it wouldn't be so bad if there weren't high winds. Like that day 2 at Rorachan Beach would have been fine if the wind hadn't came in. It was the wind that kind of scuppered that. And so it's making me think about like tarp setups for the wind. I'm gonna have to look into that when I get back. You know, what are people doing when the wind's high and you've got tarp setups that rely on like a single walking pole or a single stick to remain upright? Perhaps the direction of the tarp itself, like in relation to the wind, or something else that I was missing. Who knows, but I'll look into that. I mean, I guess tarps are, I think they are more of a woodland piece of kit. And I mean, they certainly excel in the woodland. But then again, you know, what if it's really windy in a woodland? You know, do you really want to be in there if it's high winds? Certainly here in the UK, where we've got shallow-rooted conifers, it's a bit of a hazard. Whereas if I was in a broadleaf woodland, I'd have a lot more confidence. Like, unless there was ash around, then I wouldn't be so confident. But yeah, if I was strapped up between a couple of oaks or sycamores or beech or whatever, well, actually not beech, because they can just drop a limb at no notice. So you know, it's difficult. It's difficult. But part of the challenge for the trip was the tarp aspect to it. I mean, I knew that coming with a tent would have been way more straightforward. Although I don't think I appreciated quite how challenging the tarp would be with the conditions we've had. Considering this woodland here, it's young enough, bendy enough, I think that probably has less of a risk of blowing. And it's perfect in lots of ways, you know, lots of flat ground, but it's cow dung and it's within a fence, so for that reason it's not really in line with the outdoor access code and not a suitable place for me to camp, unfortunately. So I think I'll just crack on to the Forestry Commission woodland that I was planning on staying at, and fingers crossed that's decent. Shouldn't be too far from it now, so we'll just get the head down and get there. Look at the size of this massive canister. It weighs a ton. I think it's 450 grams. Yeah. So, good excuse to have a cup of tea. No, it's good to have tea. Feels like quite a luxury, but now that I've got such an excess of gas, it's, yeah, all the tea all the time. So, up to this point, I've walked about just under 22 kilometers. Which is the biggest day so far, and my feet feel like a farrier's been at them. They're really quite sore, and I don't have a huge amount of walking left to do before I get to the woodlands that I was going to stay at, but there is just a little bit further on the map that looks like it could be better. So if this place doesn't produce the goods, then I can walk just a little bit further to the other place, and I've still got 2 hours until 4 PM, which is when it starts to get a bit dark. So yeah, plenty of time to be kind of wandering around, and plenty of time maybe to collect some firewood if there's a suitable place for having a fire. And then that's putting quite a bit of a dent into the walk between Campbelltown and Southend, meaning that I can make a bit more of a dent between Southend and Machrihanish, which was supposed to be a 30k walk, but I'm splitting it up so that it's much less than that, and the more I can make into that, the less difficult the last day is going to be. And if I can get to Machrihanish before the taxi at 5 PM and give the guy a ring and get picked up early, that would be great, because it would mean I wouldn't be getting home at like 10 PM at night. So that's the aim. There's threatening clouds appearing in the skies now. It's beginning to look a little bit like a bit moodier, and yeah, so probably time to finish up this cup of tea and get on the road. Well, this is the woodland that I was thinking about on the OS. There's a track up here to that antenna. There could be potential up here. Well, being up here is allowing me to see just what we've got going on. Not sure I would camp in this, to be honest. And further down you can see the kind of character of the woods that we've got there, quite big, blowing at the edge, probably okay in the middle. I'll have a look further down. There's potential over the other side of the road there. I don't know if that's again just quite similar to what we've got here. It's either too tight or too open here, I'd say. No doubt we could make something work, but I have a feeling that there's the perfect place somewhere. Well, I was just about ready to settle for this place. Nice, perfectly flat little platform to rest on, to sleep on rather, and you know, nice gnarly pine woods, nice views out to more pine in the distance. There's a big old lump of deadwood that would have to have come down for me to be able to sleep safely, especially when the winds are going to pick up. But I just really wanted that sea view. So I went for a little walk down this rabbit's warren. It is like a rabbit's warren here, it's amazing actually, lots of little kind of little roots and what have you. And then, beautiful location. And the sea view that I wanted. However, I did just realise when I was grabbing my bag and bringing it down here, I don't have a location for water here. Which is a pretty big issue. And might actually be a reason to move. Yeah. It'd be lovely to have this view, but I need water. I'll have a quick scrummage around, and if I can't find anything, I'll have to boost. Oh, that's a bit gutting. Couldn't find any decent water, certainly not any running water. So all hedges are bet on the woodland coming up. It's probably about a kilometre away, and yeah, fingers crossed it's a good one. Well, I've come up to the woodland that I was going to camp in, and none of it's particularly ideal. It's all in pretty wet ground. I mean, I've no doubt find a place easy enough, so I'm going to make the most of the light and just keep walking, because I've got forest to the right of me for the foreseeable. So I reckon I'll just keep going until I've got enough light left to set up a tarp and do all that kind of stuff, and then I'm making the most of my time. I'm 25k in now, so yeah, my feet are definitely feeling it. But that's a good big day, and you know, I've used all the daylight hours plus a few hours in the darkness this morning, so to think about doing a 30k day was like, you know, it's possible I could do it with lots of breaks, but you know, I'd need a few hours either side of darkness to make that work. But 25k in here today, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of figuring out on the map to see just exactly how much of a dent I need to make in the south end to Macquarie route to make that a bit more manageable. Alright, I've decided just to camp in this roadside token broadleaf compartment that was planted alongside the productive forest behind us here, and it's dying from neglect, unfortunately. But went for the classic A-frame. The ground here is really dry. It was one of the things that attracted me to it. It's flat, it's dry. These trees, you know, despite being practically dead, aren't going to kill me, and are unlikely to come over in 30-mile-an-hour winds, I would say. So I've slung up this with a ridge line and then just sturdy pegs in the corners. And I think, to be honest, of all the tarp setups I've done this trip, this is probably, and I'm not going to jinx it, but this is probably the most sturdy. Plenty steepness for the water to run off. Hopefully not too much of it dripping on my face. So yeah, let's see what the night holds. It's going to start raining about 6, I believe it was, reasonably heavily, right through the night into the morning. I can't remember when it said it was going to finish, but I quite fancy getting an early start again tomorrow and just cracking on. I'm enjoying the walking part a lot, even though it's you know, it's really painful at the time. I'm enjoying the journey, the movement, and the progression from A to B to C to D to E to F to wherever I am. So yeah, I'll get the usual stuff out of the way. A bit of dinner, probably some cups of tea since I've got loads of gas. Yeah, looking forward to tonight and to what tomorrow brings. I forgot to say that despite there being like an immense amount of tantalizingly good deadwood around here and dry ground for it, dry conditions, it's just not really essential to have a fire tonight. And I'm on the roadside. I'll show you actually where the road is. So I really don't want to piss anybody off, quite frankly, or cause any kind of concern with smoke drifting across the road. I just don't need it, it's mild enough. I just thought I'd take a quick shot. This is the road. This road, I walked down this way just to see what it looks like. Yeah, you'd have to be looking in the woods, minus my red scarf, obviously the shemag. You'd have to be really looking hard to see that tarp. It blends in so nicely. Probably much better than my green one does. I feel this is a better tarp if blending in's what you want to do. I think the brown one's a better tarp for winter in the UK. And it's dry. It got a great chance to dry in that barn last night, which is fantastic. A bunch of my things actually got a good bit of drying time in. And I'm dry from a dry day's walking, so I really can't complain. You know, it's funny, one of the things I really wasn't looking forward to using in this trip was this bag, because I just find it to be so laborious, certainly in comparison to like a wee electric pump that I've got. But I used to do it like to try and minimize any kind of breath going into it. I used to just like open it up like that and then stuff it real quick, and you only get about half a bag that way. But the idea between that was just not introducing my breath so that it doesn't freeze and produce coldness in the mat. The temperatures haven't really been bad enough for that to be a concern this trip, but on previous trips they have been. So, but like I find if you follow the instructions and you just give it the tiniest bit of a, it's amazing, like you get a considerably larger fill with it. And I've been finding that the bag has gone up reasonably quickly every time. And it gives you something to do, like in these kind of, you know, long evenings. You know, it's kind of a blessing to have something to do. And then once I've got it about as far as the bag will take me, I just give it an extra couple of toots. And that makes it really nice and firm, if that's how you like it. I am literally watching the kettle boil. Well, it's the morning. A bit of a broken sleep last night. Kept waking up because the rain was pounding down, like really pounding, and the wind as well was tearing through the tarp, and miraculously the tarp stayed up, and I'm really grateful for that, because the rain that was coming in, that would have soaked you to the bone in seconds. And weirdly, no, or next to no leaking in the tarp, which I find very strange. There's little bits of moisture here and there along the ridge line, possibly water that's carried down along the ridge line as it's soaked in the rain outside of the tarp. But, like, you know, everything down inside is dry. So I'm not sure if that's because of the sloping sides and the water's just not getting a chance to soak into the tarp in the way that it does when it's a lean-to, or a flattish kind of diamond shape. Very difficult to know. So yeah, I have to keep testing it, I suppose, just to see if it is actually just if it is leaking, or if it's something to do with setup, or it being wet when you stick it up. Yeah, weird one. I reckon that'll be Southend off in the distance by the coast. That's a pretty ominous cloud. Weather's been okay so far. Just been walking for about 20 minutes probably. I just bumped into a lovely lady whilst I was walking down the road there, called Penny, who sits on the committee for the Kintyre Way. And so she was explaining to me that they think they get about 100 people doing the walk per year, possibly more, but not many in winter, it would seem. So she was pleased to see me plodding along. And I told her all about the channel, I told her about the video, so I'm going to post that on their group Facebook page. And it's just, yeah, so it turns out that they are a volunteer organisation, and it's just great that there's a bunch of people that are willing to volunteer their time to promote wellness, promote being out in nature, and bringing a bit of business and what have you into the area as well for the local shops and B&Bs and stuff. It's great. Howdy. well, the sun's decided to show its face. A wee bit blustery, but there's a bit of warmth in the air, which is nice. I've just stopped off for another drink of water, and I'm only a couple of kilometres from Southend now. One thing I forgot to say earlier was that Penny also told me that normally at this time of year they have gale force winds. So she reckons I'm quite lucky to have the weather I've had, and you know, I don't think I could have had, I don't think I could have lasted in much worse weather with the Tarp, to be honest with you. If the winds had been any higher, it would have been an absolute nightmare. So just going to finish up this water really and head on down. I'm appreciating the convenience of the life straw today. Just like trying to get the big days in, I am appreciating the ability just to go down to the water, scoop it, put it in here, and it's done. But yeah, it's not too bad. It's a bit like trying to suck an egg out of a duck's arse though. It is quite, it's quite difficult. Yeah. Hey ho. Water's very high here. Have to see if I can actually cross this path or not. No, that's too deep. I'll have to go this way. So I just passed through the town of Southend. Tea room was open, but I felt I've got everything I need with me. I'll just crack on and stop for lunch a little bit later and get to this campsite. It's been nice to get signal, and I made a call, which was really nice to have a bit of home. And yeah, gorgeous day, high winds. Checked the weather, and it's to remain reasonably bright. The odd bit of cloud, but yeah, high-ish winds, high gusts anyway overnight. So I need to make sure the tarp's in a good position and place. That's confusing. I've walked right up to this thinking that's a Kintyre Way sign, but it's obviously not. There's one over there as well. Need to check the map. According to the map, that's where we're headed. So I've come the wrong way. That would be a cracking place to stay. You might be able to tell already, but with an increase in pain comes a decrease in video. It's been a hard old slog from Southend to up the valley here. Feet have been absolutely killing me. My knees as well. I've just dipped down to the river thinking it's a good place to camp, but it's an older car and a lot of it's dying off, so there's a lot of dead wood quite high up that would make a real mess of my evening. So yeah, I'm pushing on just a little bit further to where I was originally going to camp, hoping that there'll be somewhere suitable there. There's also like a lot of kind of signs of activity in the woodland down there, like there's logs and someone's bicycle and all this kind of thing around, so it just felt a little bit like I was intruding. So hopefully these woods up the top, more broadleaf woodlands, will be suitable. I also wanted to make just a little bit more use of the day because it's only 2:30, and despite me being about 20k or something in, my body's just buckled. I think after a big day yesterday, it's really feeling it today. So, but you know, the more I do today, the less I have to do tomorrow. But yeah, good to make use of the rest of the afternoon, because it did get actually quite boring last night. Felt like a really long evening for some reason. Unfortunately on this occasion, pushing on and hoping for the best hasn't worked out for me. There's just nowhere suitable to camp with a tarp, so I'm gonna have to head back. It's just over the other side where I'm headed, but the bridge is up at the end there, but it's only 3:10, so I've got loads of time to play with, so I'm just taking a slow amble back. my feet have benefited from the rest, so they're not complaining quite as much. But yeah, I'm sure if I scratch around long enough, I'll find a good bit in there. Okay, I think I found my space for the evening. I went back to that bit, but I bumped into a guy there and he said that it was private, so not wanting to upset anybody, I've shifted further down and found this little spot by the river. Looks like the badgers like it as well. I'm thinking I'm just going to sling up to that tree so that I've got a wind-proof platform for the winds that are going to be coming from that direction this evening. Got this massive willow here, but I'm not seeing any hazardous deadwood on it. I don't suppose that's just going to come crashing down on me, and there's not really much of concern in these trees around here as well, so content with that. Cool, well that went up in seconds. Another tarp configuration. Tried it again with a kind of like diamond approach, taking the corner to the tree, then corner on that side, corner on this side, and then just like stepped it out a bit further with pegs. And you know, it makes quite a large shelter, but the wind's supposed to be coming from this direction, so inside it's perfectly calm. I suspect this bit here is going to come down and blow into my feet, but what I've yet to do is put a good strong peg on that end, and I might even use that tie and pull another, just pull this midsection out a bit just to stop that from happening. The last evening, I was speaking to my other half today and she said, are you enjoying being outside in nature? Like, are you enjoying your time in nature or something like that? And I was like, yeah, it's good. And you know, the reality is that I've been so focused on getting from A to B in good time, finding a suitable place to sling the tarp, and thinking about problems before they arise so that I can deal with them, or be in a position to deal with problems that might arise. And that in a way is like, you know, part of the journey, and is kind of part of the fun as well, is like being at that limit of like constantly having to be completely aware about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and you know, making mistakes, learning from them, and just the whole process is why I came out to do what I'm doing. But I really enjoy spending time in nature, so you know, I feel in a way I haven't spent that much time just stopped appreciating nature like I normally would. And the brief moments of like sunshine after rain have been great. I've just basked in those moments, and it's been fantastic. But I've always had this like pushing going on in my head, like you need to get to your location, because what if it's crap and you can't sling a tarp and you've got to walk further, you need time. So yeah, that's kind of been where I've been at with that. And you know, I'm not going to lie, I'm looking forward to finishing it, you know? I'm looking forward to not having to worry about whether my tarp's going to come crashing down on my face every night. Yeah, I'm looking forward to just having a very stable, well-built house where you don't have to worry about any of that at all. And you know, like I said before, like if I had a tent, none of this would have been a concern. You know, I could just put up the tent, put the guy ropes down, and I could have slept anywhere. But the tarp adds that extra difficulty for sure. And I guess with time, I've only been using the tarp for like a year and a half, 2 years, so maybe with time and experience, there are ways you can, or you'll find more confidence with it, probably. But at the same time, like the winds we're having here are just horrendous, and it's challenging conditions for sure. So I'm just charging up some of my stuff. The torch, the head torch, actually would definitely have lasted the full trip. I'm really pleased with it. but I've decided to charge it up full again because tomorrow morning I've got a walk through hills on potentially difficult to distinguish paths. So I'd like to be able to use the second and third beam in the or the medium and high setting anyway on the torch, so that I can find my way around early morning because I want another early start. And I'm charging my phone up as well because it gets to 20% these days and then just dies. So I had it on when I was at Southend before, and yeah, it was 20%, and then next time I looked at it to turn it off, it was already off because it had died. So yeah, charging those two up. I've still got 20% left on the Garmin, so it's going to last the rest of the trip quite happily, which is also really pleasing. But if I've got any juice left in that battery bank, I might just chuck some in the Garmin for peace of mind. See what happens, but still got a while to wait. It's probably only about 5 o'clock now with the way the light is, so another half hour, dinner. I'll do some journaling in the meantime, which I've been really enjoying, just writing about my day and how it's been and things I've been up to, which, like I think I've said before, I'm going to put that on Walk Highlands as a journey report for the Kintyre Way. But it's been nice just to consolidate the thoughts and think back. And you know, quite often on a normal day I can struggle to remember what I've done in the day, you know. It's like that thing about like, oh, I quite often say to folk, oh, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. And sometimes it takes me a few seconds to actually think back and be like, what the hell did I have for breakfast? But the reason I said that is because they say that when you're walking, I think it was Robert McFarlane that said this in The Wild Places, that when you're walking you remember things more clearly. There's something about the headspace that it puts you into, the pace of it perhaps, that your brain finds easier to recall the period of time that you were walking than it does, say, if you were just sedentary or, you know, doing something else. So yeah, I'm able to like actually recall back in quite a bit of detail everything that happened in the day. Partly also because, or at least possibly because I'm so focused on all the things I'm doing today. Like, you know, when I'm eating breakfast in the morning, it's normally in a rush to get out to work or to go and do something. And I'm just trying to get it down me. I'm probably watching a YouTube video whilst I'm eating it. Whereas out here, everything I'm doing, I'm super focused on. So maybe that's part of it as well. Anyway, that's enough spraffing.
What's on the menu tonight then? Wood chip and potato hot pot. Great. Can't wait.
You know, I feel quite bad about taking the piss out of these because this one's great. I think the ticket is a little bit more water than the packet says, and leaving it for quite a long time to you know, cook or whatever, like to rehydrate. It says 5 minutes on the pack. I don't know how long I left this one, but definitely longer than the other ones. And yeah, no cardboard, no MDF, no wood chip. It's great, really good. Sorry, Expedition Foods. I've been slating you all week. Well, slept in. I'm 2 hours behind schedule, but that's not a bad thing really, because I worked it out last night. I was going to end up walking into Machrihanish at about 1 PM and my taxi's at 5, so should get in hopefully for about 3 PM today, and if they can come collect me sooner, that's great. But yeah, mostly uneventful night. The tarp held. The winds didn't come as hard and heavy as I thought they would. I did have gusts, I did have a peg to refix in the night, and the moon was just spectacular. Really bright moon. I mean, the stars came out. I'd woke up and saw the stars out, and I tried to take a time lapse for you, but it failed. I've never managed to get it to do more than about 9 seconds, so I need to have a look at the settings, because it only got 9 seconds before the battery ran out, which is not ideal. So it feels great to have rested well. I've got good feeling feet, good knees, good back. The pack feels a bit lighter. And the last day, 18.5 kilometers from here to Machrihanish, and I don't have to worry about the indistinguishable path or anything like that. I don't need my head torch, so I can just crack on, and yeah, should be a good day.
Got this little spaniel chumming me on the walk. That's nice to have a wee pal. Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, right downwind. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Oh, Harry. This time with some nice chicken wire on it. Oh. That dog is still with me. It seems to know the way better than I do. I'm sure it's a free range dog. I'm sure it knows its way back to its food bowl well enough. Oh man, I'm gonna have to take this dog back to the house. It's following me right onto the hill. Go on you get. Up. Go on. Go. And up. One more. Yes, I see you. Go on, up. I'll show you. Yes. Oop. Right, now this way. Man. It's a good time. It's a good job I've got some spare time. I'm gonna have to push on just for peace of mind. I reckon that dog would just have followed me all the way to Machrihanish if I hadn't decided to turn back. I think that I don't know if it's a he or a she, but it's not responding to any calls or commands at all. So yeah, gonna have to take it to the owners and see if they can grab it, put it on a lead or something. Fun and games. Oh wow, what an ordeal. Took the dog back to the house and then got attacked by some kind of collie who was barking like mad, sniffing at my heels, and another older one came out, was absolutely having a go at me, and spaniel just wasn't for staying. So I hung around there, considered my options, checked her collar. I think, oh no, she's back. Oh my god, she's back. Oh man. I'd ran up the hill to get away from her. I should have kept quiet. You need to go home. I can't, there's nobody in the house. I tried knocking a few times. Nobody in the house. Just a load of dogs everywhere. So, yeah. I think the only option I have, tie her up somewhere with some paracord. That's going to be the only thing that's going to stop her following me all the way there. Wow, extreme measures. I'm not going back into that compound though. Not going back into the house area. That is madness. Oh well, we'll make progress soon enough. Went back and tied the dog up to a post with paracord, several knots, because I think that dog could outwit anything, including paracord. Yeah, and then just the screams and the yelps as I walked away. She just wanted to come up the hill again so bad. Yeah, that was a tricky scenario to navigate. Now I'm well behind and I'm gonna have to push on like hell. And I swear to God, if I hear those little feet coming and thundering up behind me, she's coming to Machrihanish. Right, peace out. Let's get on with it. I've been pushing on quite hard the last while. quite a steep climb up a hill, and then along the top of nature reserve Largy Ban, and it was windy as hell up there. There was no point in getting the camera out. So now I'm on kind of lower slopes off the hills, soon to join what looks like a landy track. 4k into the walk so far, so still a wee while to go yet. One of my walking poles has packed it in, so I've traded it in for the biodegradable variety. It's finally chilled out a little bit. The wind's died down a touch. I'm knackered from having pushed so hard then, but yeah, I think it's worth it. There's some water here, although it looks a bit questionable. Get a water break soon, I think. Some little adjustments to the walking pole, rounding at the end to hopefully stop it splitting. And a nice wee comfortable bit for my thumb. How'd you like that, eh? I wish it was a bit of deadwood, it'd be a lot lighter. Views of the sea once again, and you can just make out Ireland on the horizon, Northern Ireland. It is seriously windy, and this is seriously steep. Whoa, feeling it. About 7.5 kilometers in, not long till halfway. Hopefully it's flat at the top of this hill. Goat. Very spectacular location. Climbing that hill took a lot of my beans. But what a beautiful place. Whoa. Yeah, hard going. Bloody spectacular though. Truly, truly spectacular. These high cliffs, the green sea. Yeah. Amazing. Right, well, pretty much 8 kilometers in. A couple more and we'll stop for lunch. Yeah, sounds good. No, I'm answering myself. Oh god. It's a good job this trip's nearly done. Strap a line. Oh yes. It's actually soul destroying that we're going all the way back down again, presumably to come all the way back up again. It's a nice trail though. I've had this really bizarre thing going on where for the last, well, from like the evening of day 4 onwards till about last night, I don't think I heard it last night, but I could hear this just constant drone of, like, it sounded like as if there was a quad far off in the distance or some kind of ATV at more or less full revs, but occasionally kind of fluctuating and changing. And I just could not figure out what it was. The first night I thought it was a cow, but I was like, no, it's too constant. Then after that I was like, oh, is it the wind farms? Are they making some kind of noise? But then I moved really far away from the wind farms and I could still hear it. But only now that I'm at this coast has the sound stopped. I've absolutely no idea what it was. I wasn't sure whether it was just in my head, but I really don't think it was. It kind of like, yeah, I don't know, it's just very difficult to describe it. At points it was almost like it went away when I stopped walking. I have no idea what was going on there. But it's gone now and I'm quite relieved, to be honest, because I thought I was losing the plot for a bit. looks to me like we are looking down at Sailor's grave. I'm sure it'd be spectacular to see close up, but I'm going to try and stay high and cut that bit off and just push on this way if I can.
Do you see the dog in the clouds? That's dispersing now.
That's the same. Because I've been thinking a lot about, well, I've chained it up, tied it up outside with a bit of paracord that it could quite easily bite its way through in time. That was a fear of mine actually, was that I was going to hear it thundering along behind me again as it had gotten through the paracord in no time and then chased up to me. But yeah, there's that. I think I left long enough for it to be able to lie down, and yeah, I left it outside, but I left it in a place where it would be seen, rather than going back into the yard and getting attacked again by those dogs, or putting it in some barn that was like, you know, not some place they'd check when they come home from work today or wherever they're at for the day. So yeah, I feel like I've done the right thing.
Look at that.
Out on the moor. Nice to have a bit of change of scenery again. I'm just coming over the top of a hill and starting to see a coastline appear. So I reckon we're heading down to that kind of direction. GPS reckons probably about 8k to go, just past the sign there that said 4 miles. So not long at all. Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Hopefully there's a place to have a cup of tea and a sit down and a chill and wait for this taxi to come. But we're not there yet. There's plenty of bogs to fall in, plenty of knees to go, plenty of feet to ache. Alright, you birdie. I'll tell you what, I would not like to do the south end to Machrihanish stretch in one day. That would be brutal. And I wouldn't like to start in Machrihanish and end in Tarp. All that climbing with full pack on, geez, oh, that would be intense. I surely must be about 2 miles from the town now, not far. We've got a bit of a kind of notice board here. Ballygrogan. Starting to see signs of civilization again. 4k to go on the Garmin, which feels quite long considering it was ages ago I last saw I think it was a 3 miles to go post, the Kintyre Way post, and it's making me feel a little bit like those posts, unless Machrihanish is just coming up right now down the hill. I feel almost like those posts ended at Ballygrogan, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it finishes in Machrihanish, but it just feels like we've still got a long way to go. I can see a town away off in the distance that looks a lot further than 4k, so it's got to be closer. I could check the map, but I just want to get there now. No, it just feels really long because my feet and knees are killing me. We have another post and it says Kintyre Way 105 miles, right? Oh yeah, so that means 1 mile to go. Oh my god, 1 mile to go. Wow, those posts have really confused me. I could have sworn when I was up at the top that it seemed like the total was 100 miles, because I'm working in kilometers. I've no idea what the mileage is, and so I was really surprised to see that we'd come 105 miles. I was working to 100, but no, I'm just losing the plot. But
Yeah, 1 mile to go. That's great. Great news. We're here. This is it. This is Machrihanish I'm walking into right now. So, closing remarks. What a journey. Like, what a journey. I don't know why I didn't expect it to be as tough as it was, but it was tougher than I thought it would be. And a lot of, you know, it just pushed me in many ways. Lots of physical pushing, lots of mental pushing too, and that was the stuff that was really getting me. You know, like a lot of the hardest times you won't have seen because like, I just wasn't in the mood to put on the camera, and in a lot of ways that was kind of why I wanted to do it. I wanted that kind of resilience building, but it's hard going. It's definitely hard going. I made it difficult for myself with the tarp for sure. There was all sorts of weird things that happened, like weird conundrums and failures and stuff, but I've made it to Machrihanish, and you know, I'm in a lot of pain, but I could probably do another day if I really had to, because I've built that, I guess, that mental fortitude, that awareness that, you know, the pain subsides and you can carry on and go at it again. With limits, obviously. You know, I'm sure I would have sustained an injury at some point if I'd kept on going with the size of pack I had and what have you, but yeah, kind of job done in that sense. It's reminding me that sometimes you just need to push on a little bit. Sometimes you need to appreciate what you and your body is actually capable of, and you've got to go to its limits to find that. So, job done. Thank you very, very much for watching to the end of this video. Like, I really appreciate it. This has been the Kintyre Way, the entire way, and God knows what's next, but I'm sure I'll see you in another video. Peace out.